Thank you for tuning in to watch the 10th anniversary launch of our Invest Miami report. You're about to watch panel number 2, Tracking Progress, how traditional industries are competing in a new Miami and supporting the communities they serve. Be sure to like and subscribe for more leadership and business insights. Enjoy.
All right, well, thank you all, and first off, I want to add my congratulations to Abby and the whole CAA team, and thank you for having me here, but congratulations on 10 years. It was funny, I was reflecting, I was talking to Nelson from the Miami-Dade College, and I was reflecting a little bit as Abby was speaking, and I sort of fit this bill of the new and the old, and our presentation is a bit on about the old sectors, the legacy sectors that have been here, but I first met Abby, I was trying to think, about 7 years ago, and I was the managing partner of our New York office, and at the time, shortly before, we had the passing of one of our senior partners and managing partner in Miami, and our office was struggling here, and we came up with the idea, I'd like to say I was a visionary, but it was luck, of combining our New York and Miami offices of Baker together. And one of the first people I spent time with was Abby, and that was at fairly the beginning, not quite the beginning, but a few years into this, so it's amazing to see the growth, which really leads into our panel. So it's been quite an exciting time watching this market grow, and as I mentioned, I've only been here a short time, a little before COVID, and now, but our firm has celebrated, just 2 weeks ago, we celebrated our 40th anniversary and had a party in the new building, the 830 Brickell building. That is an incredible building, if you haven't seen it, that recently just opened. But that building really is a testament to this exact discussion, because that building, you have firms like ours, Baker McKenzie, been there 40 plus years, but now you have Citadel's headquarters there while they're building their new building. That is their headquarters. You have other big established law firms and then new firms that have really entered into the market. So our conversation is a bit about how companies that really are in these legacy industries like law, like accounting, like telecom, like banking, how they're competing, how they're finding it in today's environment. So with me, I have, okay, now I need my glasses, I can't see anything. So first I have Leigh Anne Lanier. Hi, Leigh Anne. She's the market president at Verizon. Then I have Joshua Rader, the managing partner of Miami Metro at Citron Cooperman.
Good morning.
Good morning, Joshua. I don't have Jeff Watts, but I have a fill-in.
Yeah, Fernando Mesia, market president for Miami for Valley Bank.
Welcome. And then I have Jennifer Perez from Schutz-Bowen.
Schutz-Bowen, yes.
Schutz-Bowen.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I'm not really good with names. My firm knows that. They're supposed to spell things out for me. Okay. So why don't I start with a question, and I'm going to ask this to all of you. So we'll start with Jennifer, who I butchered her firm's name. So established sectors are facing pressures to modernize amid rising expectations around technology, talent, and ESG. How is your organization embracing the change while still preserving its sort of core identity and structure and strengths that you've had?
Sure, it's a great question. And of course, our clients are embracing change. Our clients are using within their internal systems, artificial intelligence and systems that will help them, get to solutions quicker. So of course, we are also embracing that and investing in certain solutions. But what I want to speak a little bit about the healthcare industry, which is where I am in, and the healthcare clients, anyone who comes to Miami that wants to, for example, invest in a medical device company or open a medical device company, where's the first place they have to go? The FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, is an example of is a perfect example of embracing the artificial intelligence innovation technology. As recently as June 1st, the FDA came out with what's called ELSA. That's a generative AI tool that they are using in-house to actually streamline their processes to get to approval of medical devices quicker. In fact, one of the first reviewers, I was reading an article that saw ELSA in action, said ELSA did in 6 minutes what it took me 2 to 3 days to do. On the other side, because the second part of the question is how are they remaining true to the core? Well, the government is also putting down policies as recently as April 2025 to support the recent executive order removing barriers to AI growth, stating, yes, the AI growth is great, but we need guardrails. Some of the guardrails are more pre-deployment processes, actually monitoring the amount of human interaction and human touches that we need to have, and also ceasing to use them if they don't meet those guardrails. So a lot of our healthcare clients are seeing that these vendors are going to have to embrace the technology, but also embrace the requirements.
Joshua? Sure. So, the accounting industry, legacy industry, transforming at such a rapid pace right now. And, the enrollment of undergraduate students in accounting has gone down over year after year, and there just aren't enough accountants today to do the jobs that we need to fill. So very quickly we're seeing technology come in and replace that. And what is it doing? When I started in public accounting 20-something years ago, we sat behind a computer screen. We worked with QuickBooks, with accounting software. We spent our early years as data entry professionals. And I think the transformation that's happening today for young professionals, for experienced professionals, is whether it be AI, whether it be using bots and other automated processes, the human element component of preparing tax returns, preparing accountings, it's going to be gone in a few years. So what does that open the door to? Is it makes the accounting industry a little bit more exciting than maybe it is known for being, and it gives our professionals the opportunity really to go out into the marketplace and service clients. So we go from being these historical data keepers of information from a year ago. We're preparing tax returns, often 18 months out from when the year end takes place. We become trusted advisors. We can really kind of pivot our role and the place that we exist with our clients, get involved in FP&A, real planning analysis, real value add, and do things that historically we kind of were anchored to historical data reporting. So for us, technology, it does a few things. It fills what's clearly a void in the profession because there's just not enough people, but it also gets us out of the mundane tasks of just data entry and keying in, which only yields so much value, and that work will go away. That work will be automated, and takes us into this place where we can sit with our clients, we can be out in the market and doing the things that people want to pay us to be doing.
Well, as a tax attorney, I'm excited that accounting is...
We will continue to be the 5G leader of technology. All the last panel with all the flying cars, I feel like I should have a big reveal, but not today. But again, we are in the forefront of that type of development. And then in the future, how do you build off the foundation of dependability and you layer in more of a sense of creativity, community? And when you think about how we're investing in South Florida specifically, we are thinking about those things. How are we going to, not just as far as bring more 5G from a network and connectivity, but also how do we transform our customer experience? We know that people in South Florida want more of a curated experience, and so we're going to be on the forefront of that as well. And then also we want to make sure we continue to develop local talent, AI, and make sure they're going to be the future and really the billboards of digital transformation.
Great. Fernando?
Yes, I'm going to attack talent in a different way. I think we face the same issues with accounting firms. I don't think if you are a student right now in business or you are a recent graduate, you are thinking about banking as a really your career or your future. I think it's a very traditional industry that you perceive as old. So we as a bank face that, where we don't have a good talent or new talent applies to banking jobs. So that's going to be an issue for us. So the way we are addressing that issue is working from internships, for example, making sure that whenever we bring an intern, we treat him in a way better than it would be a new hire, a VP level. Recently, for example, this week, we faced that. I had an intern, and the onboarding process was like, I had never seen it before. It was very intentional. That intern, 20 years old, a student from FSU, had a computer, had an assigned password. She could log in. She had a desk. She had everything from the moment she showed up to the bank. correct? And that doesn't happen usually. I mean, if you work in banking, usually you wait for 3 days, 4 days, 1 week, and you're still waiting for your login and systems. But it was intentional. It was intentional from HR, and actually they told us, listen, they are evaluating us too, because this is talent that if it works, if they are good, we're going to be asking them when they graduate to join us. And if they don't have a good experience, they're not going to even consider us. So it's a two-way street. So we as traditional businesses, we have to let them experience, in this case, something not like maybe they were not looking to internship in banking, but at least they now face, banking is not that bad. You know, you can do things. It's different, yes, but it's something that may appeal to them when they graduate. So that's something that it was not done before. When I was an intern, so many years ago, we were doing filing, we were doing copies, and nobody does filing anymore, nobody does copies anymore, and I don't think even I had a desk. So it's a different experience that we're trying to make for this new talent.
Terrific, thank you. We're going to come back around. You see in the news, and obviously the last bunch of years, as we talked about, all these great new companies coming into the area, investment banking and the tech. But as traditional companies in the Miami area, do you think we're being overlooked at all? Do you think that's something that's people just, from a perception standpoint? What's your thoughts?
So my thoughts are, the law and healthcare, two tales as old of time. The most traditional, you can't get more traditional in those two areas. And my experience is that no, we're not being overlooked. In fact, we're being, 100% targeted to grow it more. A great example, I think you mentioned Citadel, is Nicholas Children's Hospital just opened this amazing surgical tower, 131,000 square feet from the donation of Citadel CEO Ken Griffin. And they have instituted one of the most cutting edge innovative, virtual reality and robotics in order to help them ramp up their already 16,000 pediatric surgeries a year. So that's one great example locally. Another great example is ambient listening devices. For those of you who don't know, these are devices that, they can listen to the patient and the provider, extract the information, and create the clinical notes, the billing, and the coding. Well, many of our South Florida hospitals are already using this. How does that combine with the law? We're here to say, okay, we have these devices, but Florida also has a medical consent law. We have to make sure these things are being abided by. The patients are signing written consents. There's also what we call the Patient Bill of Rights. It's a Florida statute. Patients need to be aware that these devices are being used. So I think it goes hand in hand, and we're on the path to just continue strong growth in these areas.
Terrific. Josh?
Yeah, no, I think that the traditional legacy industries in South Florida are only enhanced by the growth and all of the new industries that have come down here in recent years. Professional services, and I'm a partner in a professional services firm that wasn't here before 2022. Look at the law firms and the accounting firms that have entered the marketplace just in the last few years. Whether it's we're in a building that didn't exist 10 years ago, hotels, hospitality, all of the core traditional legacy industries that have flourished here, tourism, for so many years, they're all enhanced by these new industries that have grown. So as Miami continues to develop and grow and be an attractive city, everything that has been here before is only enhanced. What we can do, the way that we can service, we're servicing new industries that we weren't servicing before, and it brings down more professionals, more expertise, and it's kind of just like an add-on effect. As when a new industry comes, the professionals and the core industries behind it follow.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah, when you think of telecom, you do think of more of a static, linear approach. We're changing that narrative at Verizon. So I'll give you an example. We started last year in the South Florida community. We call it Project Love Letter. And we're in the mecca of vibrancy of local artists and community. And so what we wanted to do as we continue to invest in South Florida through our brick and mortar, we wanted to make sure that our storefront reflected the vibrancy of South Florida. So we commissioned and partnered with local artists and built murals outside of our storefronts. But they're not just static murals, they're actually fueled by augmented reality. And so we actually have one here locally at Coconut Grove. We continue, encourage you to come by and look at the mural, but Hialeah, Midtown, and we're going to continue to make those kind of investments, again, to reflect the core values of the communities that we serve as well.
That's great.
Yeah, and definitely banking is overlooked, but also it's that we're not doing a good job promoting what we do. For example, Valley Bank is a regional bank, and for example, we have a tech group in Palo Alto. So basically, we target startup companies that are in California and Palo Alto area, and tech companies that move from other countries to the US. So that's a group, specialty group. It's a totally different world from the regular corporate banking, commercial banking transaction. They have their own teams, credit risk, everything, credit policies, it's totally different. But for example, I don't know if maybe a couple of people knew that we have that group in Palo Alto and in New York. For example, we have also a tech fund. So for example, also again, it's few people know that the Valley has a tech fund that invests in startups. And we do in California and here, and we have done visits here, or they have done, because I'm not part of the group. They have visited companies here and a startup, and they have done events here in Miami targeting those type of companies. So sometimes it's us not promoting what we do that may not necessarily be here or in other markets, but it's centered in California or in New York.
Terrific. I'm going to move on just to some individual questions. We have about 10 minutes. So I'll start with Leigh Anne. Obviously, given that connectivity is foundational to any modern economy, and especially one growing like Miami, how has Verizon adapted its infrastructure? I know this is a question constantly that I've been asked in terms of the growth in the Miami market, but it's much more relevant for you.
All right. Yes, South Florida definitely has the need for speed, and we say you keep building and we'll keep making sure we show up. But if you look at the last 5 years, we've invested over $191 million just in the network infrastructure in South Florida. It is a showcase area for us. And when I look at our plans for next year in 2026, 1/4 of my macro new build is just going to be in the Miami, South Florida area. So we're definitely committed to growing with the pace of play here as well. When you think about 5G building, as I was speaking earlier with that established network, but again, it's more than just as far as the 5G, it's also the AI. And when you think about the customer experience, the transformation that we're going through, we can't plan fast enough, and we want to make sure that we reflect as far as the investments and technologies that South Florida is making. I mentioned the showcase. We have great partnerships already with Hard Rock Stadium, FIFA, NFL, and so we'll continue to make sure that we showcase that, because we also know a part of being the community is not just the connectivity of the network, but it's also about how do you show up with curated experiences for our consumers while you're at these events too. So that's the connectivity part of the network. We still are very much committed also to brick and mortar. We actually currently have over 45 distribution points of Verizon within where you play. We want to make sure that we're a convenience for our consumers as well. And we're still looking for new opportunity. When you think about Verizon across the country, this is the #1 opportunity that we're investing in for new retail distribution because of the growth. We want to make sure that we show up where you live, work, and play and make that easy for our consumers.
That's terrific. I'll turn to you, Josh. Given your work with a broad mix of middle market and growth stage companies, what are you seeing in terms of how traditional businesses are adjusting to sort of this evolving economic profile here in Miami?
Look, I think I addressed it a little bit in the prior response, but I think that the traditional industries are going where the businesses are finding themselves, whether it be in new neighborhoods. Look at Wynwood, look at Edgewater, look at Brickell, look at downtown, is these core traditional industries, hospitality, tourism, the development of new hotels, new restaurants, left and right, in every single neighborhood. They're going where the workforce is living, where they're working, and we're seeing also some of that come down here as well, large hospitality groups that from New York that now have a presence in South Florida they're finding their way to to where the growth is. And that's what Miami's always done, is it's kind of wrapped itself around whatever is happening down here. So right now, whether it's tech or the innovation hub down here, and then moving into some of these financial services that have really kind of exploded down here since the pandemic, those traditional industries have gone and found themselves and kind of attached themselves and popped up around it. And I think that's just going to continue to happen, and that's what Miami does.
Yep. I'll turn to you, Jennifer. Sure. As we've gotten in Miami to be much more tech-driven in terms of the industry and sectors coming in, how is your firm adapting sort of legal services to some of these new industries coming in? While still, obviously, I know with us, we still have sort of traditional, our firm was very heavily focused Latin American practice here in Miami and a high net worth planning practice. But we've adapted, our office now, that's just a tiny piece of what our Miami office does now. And we've had to make some serious changes to adapt to this, what's moving in and having a true Miami practice, which we didn't think a firm like ours was ultimately going to have. So how have you guys been adapting to that?
Yeah, so I'll speak a little bit in our financial services sector of the services that we're providing our clients more and more. One key thing that Schutz actually did, Schutz and Bowen lawyers actually had a hand in amending the current Florida Statute 560, which is basically the cryptocurrency statute. In the recent amendment, it added in virtual currency to the definition of money transmitter. So that was a big, something that our firm had a big hand in. In addition, with our banking clients, our firm is constantly helping our clients now create apps for depository, wire transfer, and other services in a cross-border manner. Additionally, our firm is actively helping banks create security measures and procedures that will, allow them to shield them from liability from fraudsters that intervene in a wire transfer. So UCC Section 4A provides this safe harbor for banks, and we are actively helping our banks create these very specific compliance security procedures, which, you can't even miss one step to be able to qualify for this. And generally, as everybody has mentioned, Miami is the international hub, it's the international gateway. And so what we do in a really active way is we take, our clients' home country solutions, and we're able to create a one-stop shop and a local solution for them here.
Terrific. So, Fernando, this is going to be an unfair question because it was really written for Jeff since it was from his interview, but someone probably clued you in on what I might talk about. So, Jeff talked about the main priority, one of the main priorities for the bank being to grow commercial and industrial businesses. How would you say the growth there reflects sort of the Miami mix of industries?
Yeah, definitely reflects it. For example, I think this year we have grown in new client acquisition in the wholesale business, especially, the connection with LATAM. Being in Miami, there's a lot of companies that sell to LATAM, and there's definitely appetite of the bank for that type of business, and credit risk, understand that business and the exposure in Latin America and so forth. So that has been a good market for us. Manufacturing too, believe it or not, in Miami and South Florida, you see some manufacturing, some very interesting manufacturing companies that are very niche, also very much into international, basically selling at least 90-80% of the products that they manufacture abroad, mainly in Latin America again. So that has been another sector or ownership that we have been working with has been more family offices. Funds, private equity. We have seen more transactions there. And also by following our clients. So we have some clients that are based here, headquartered here, but suddenly they go and want to buy a company in Utah when we don't have a presence. So we follow our clients and we finance those transactions. It makes sense also for the bank. So that's how we have been growing CNI.
All right, last question. We'll make it quick, and I'll make it an either-or question. We'll pick up from the last panel, how they started and how they ended. So you can answer either one, so you can take your choice. I'm going to start back with you, Jennifer. So if you had to describe in one sentence the past decade of Miami, or you could, in one sentence, tell us what 10 years from now looks like in Miami. Your choice.
I'll go with the past decade.
Okay.
In one sentence.
You can have two.
Okay. So the past decade, I mean, I can only think of the way that Florida was so open during COVID, and the way that everybody had the freedom and patients, people didn't feel as if they had to be covered up or inside, combined with recent Florida decisions. I'm talking now, recent Florida courts who have decided to listen, digest, and then make their own decisions about how healthcare can be affected. And so I think in one sentence, I would say that South Florida is a market leader and a safe haven for patients, while also promulgating strength and competitive-driven goals in the healthcare market.
That was such a lawyerly answer. I gave a full 3-paragraph answer, but now I'll give you your one sentence. I love that. All right, Josh.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
No, I think Miami's going to continue to adapt and change as it continues to grow. And I think it was addressed up here, and I haven't addressed it yet, is we are the gateway to Latin America, and I think we will continue to be a meaningful international hub for trade and for activity, and that will continue to grow.
Terrific. Almost one sentence.
I'll honor the past. A tropical tech boom where tradition and transformation meet, and everyone's invited to the party to build the future.
That is a sentence. That was wonderful. That was terrific.
There's your t-shirt.
Someone I hope wrote that down. That should be a slogan somewhere. So that was great. Fernando, this is going to be a tough one to beat that.
I would say not only tourism. I think for many, many years, we were just in a place where you go on vacation, and if you're young, you party. If you're old, you retire. And I think that now that has changed.
Terrific. Well, thank you all. Thanks for doing this, and thank you. And again, congratulations. Thank you.